Okay. Okay.
Are you sure, right?
Yeah, you can always take it off the Facebook page too, right? We stream it live on Facebook too now, so you can always take it off of there too.
The problem is I don't really have Facebook. I mean, I have an account, but I don't really use it and things. So
Yeah.
I might.
2 minutes to start funny.
Just go insurance where
di baba ko just na ye je ni ka tai.
I would do like all your scholars and get one of them book background. Why I have this
That-
thing here.
my one fake. They just a picture. That's really my background, but I just take a picture and use it as a background.
Okay.
I really have a bookshelf like that.
So this is ITV showing live there, all of the ads
Yeah.
and so on. Okay.
Are you going to do all the introduction to yourself, right, Jared? Or you going to introduce him?
All they introduced now.
Basic introduction, yeah.
When you're ready, starting about when you reach yet, I will do the prayer, or you can do the prayer. Or Jared, the less I talk about how my voice is sounding. If you sure reach yet now, Jared, you go do the prayer.
I'm happy to do the prayer, but I think the host should open, if people get there. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not really sure that we are wrong, so I don't know.
Just in case you reach in time.
Maybe much I on this week.
Later, you pray, just introduce one the prayer. May pass back to you. Whatever he said, Baba, whatever he said. Yeah.
I think we just started up. I just introduced to the planning as normal, just pass over. And we start the discussions.
All right, okay.
Back and forth so short wouldn't come across so good.
Who do you pray you?
Yeah, just do the normal startup if you sure not to reach on time.
Oh yeah, look here. Look here.
Hey, come on, all right.
Yeah, right. You join in now. So
You're joining from Paris.
You can the front door.
Term, everybody.
You know, three out there now.
You
Huh?
barely make it.
Yeah, boy. No. I had real pressure today. No. We had World of Work in school today, and went on a little
yeah,
bit.
so okay, so we started off with now Panic Jordan to do as usual.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, money dishes as usual. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Melissa Leroux. Okay, so it's not my bunny.
Yeah.
Okay, recording. Okay, so we're gonna do the disclaimer. We're coming into the opening just now, and then to you. Went to you, Bunny, and Jan.
Sitaram, dear viewers, and welcome to another episode of the Hindu Perspective here on ITV. The Hindu Perspective, as you know, a special program of the Dharm Mandal of Swaha. The Dharm Mandal, of course, the board of Swaha. And for the last few weeks, we have been discussing various issues as it affects our East Indian culture and in general, Indian identityship. So over 170 plus years, our ancestors would have come to Trinidad and Tobago and would have gone to various places around the world, such as, of course, Guyana, Fiji, Mauritius, Suriname, but we are dealing specifically with our situation here. And today, in fact, apart from the diaspora here in the Caribbean, we'll hear from another Pandit, a special guest, who will be introduced by Pandit Jaidat Maharaj in a short while, who will bring, another aspect or another perspective to Hinduism and Indian culture through his experiences, unique experiences. So indeed, we do have a wonderful program in store for you all, and I hope you remain with us for the next hour or so. But as we begin, as always, we start with our prayer. I ask you to bow your heads as we focus upon Gyandata, the giver of knowledge, Vignaharta, that one who helps to remove obstacles from our life. And Om Ganganapati Namaha. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarva Karyeshu Sarvada. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Bole Shri Gajanan Swami ki jai, Swaha Mata ki jai. I hand over to Pandit Jaidat ji.
Sitaram to our viewers, and of course, you have been welcomed by Pandit Ishwar Maharaj. And this is the end of our first season of the Hindu Perspective. The last episode of the first season of the Hindu Perspective, and of course, we end in a wonderful way by having a special guest that is going to share his experiences, of course, being part of the Indian diaspora. And we encourage you to call in on the station and of course to send messages. And we'll use this to encourage our discussion and of course to share with the members of the panel who will answer your questions and share their insights based on their experiences. So today we have with us Pandit Rabidutt Maharaj. He's a member initially of Swaha and the Dharmandal of Swaha and the Pandit's body of Swaha, and he now resides in the United States. So as we have said in previous programs, there's an Indian diaspora. When our ancestors, they came to Trinidad as indentured laborers, and coming to Trinidad, of course, many would have settled, and having settled, they would have subsumed some of the culture of our country and the region, Trinidad, Guyana, Suriname, and many would have left. So that besides the Indian diaspora, there's the Indo-Caribbean diaspora, where they have gone to other countries, and having gone to other countries, of course, they are making their contribution in different ways. Pandit Rabidutt Maharaj, he studied in India, of course, similar to Pandit Gyandev. And today, what we'll have is really discussions between both of these panelists, Pandit Gyandev, Pandit Rabidutt, who will share their experiences and, of course, give their insight. And we will have different types of discussions. And as you normally do, we encourage you to send in your questions, send in your comments. And as the program progresses, we'll share this with members of the panel. So that what we'll do at this time, we will pass over to our special guest, Pandit Rabidutt, to introduce himself and to share some words, and we'll take the discussions from there. So Pandit Rabidutt.
Thank you. First of all, Jai Sitaram to Pandit Gandevji, to the President of Swaha, Pandit Jaidat Maharajji, and Pandit Ishwarji. I'm very happy to be here this evening, and I'm looking forward to a productive discussion. I'll give a brief background on myself. I grew up in the traditions of the Sanatan Dharma Pandit. I am the son of Pandit Sundat Maharaj, who is the only son-in-law of the late Shankaracharya, Pandit Hari Prasad. I had all my training in Panditai in Trinidad and Tobago under the guidance of the senior family members, and of course, eventually Swaha. I completed most of my education in Trinidad. I left Trinidad in 1997 for India, where I spent 2 years. And then when I returned to Trinidad, I migrated to the United States in 2000. I have been there since. Currently, I live in Florida, and I am a part of our own organization here, which is called Dharma Inc. International. This is our organization, which functions also with our mandir, which is Sri Vishnu Sahasranam Mandir. Like I said, it's an honor to be here. And I thank the hosts and the panelists for inviting me. Thank you.
Jairat Maharaj ji, who is present Swaha, Ishwar Madhav Maharaj ji, Secretary Dharmandal, they'll be asking questions intermittently. But I'll want to present questions from you at this point in time. Just to share your experiences. But first of all, I didn't get it clear. Are you a student of history?
Yes, I am. I actually studied humanities at University of the West Indies. My major is West Indian history with a minor in musicology.
And what did you study in India?
When I went to India, I studied music. I furthered my musicology credentials at Delhi University in Old Delhi. And at the same time, I studied at the music college, which is the Gandharv Mahavidyalaya in New Delhi. I did that for 2 years. And intermittently, I did some informal Vedanta training with one Swamidya who's known as Swami Paritas Harathi. And I also did some quite a bit of touring and tourism with Pandit Gandhi when he would visit from Agra.
Yeah, so I was in Agra at that time for a short time. Now let us use your experience and let others benefit from it. As you will have experience leaving Trinidad and going to America. This is our ancestors leave India and came to Trinidad. You get different culture to establish yourself. You go into something not sure what it is all about. How did you go about establishing yourself? What are the values that you have taken with you, which you gained from your parents and grandparents and Trinidad itself to establish yourself in Orlando?
Okay, well, the movement that I am a part of, typically it's referred to as the second or the new diaspora, where people from a diaspora community, they migrate for a second time into a new third country. So like you said, from India, our foreparents would have come over to Trinidad and Tobago in many different places. Trinidad being one of the, I would say, moderate areas of indentureship in terms of numbers and so on. We would have come and established ourselves here. And when I moved to Florida, I moved at quite a young age. So I was in a state of assimilation. It was more experiences than anything else. And later on in life, as I became a little bit more adept in my experiences, I was able to do a bit more analysis. I will say this, that the channel through which I migrated from here to Florida is one of Dharma. You can say following or in the pursuit of Dharma. And when around the time that I migrated, there were already many connections being made between Swaha in Trinidad and communities in Florida, Central Florida in particular, with the establishment of mandirs, the visiting in Florida of the prominent pundits of Swaha, and in fact, many of the pundits of Swaha, I would say, conducting yagyas and so on. So this was the channel. Through those channels, I saw Florida. I liked it, of course. I felt the community was very welcoming. It was very warm. And I always personally, on an individual note, I always had a love for diversity. And I felt that there was a lot of opportunity for diversification, personally and otherwise. And I took a leap of faith, so to speak. I migrated there. And immediately I stayed connected. Immediately on migrating, I stayed connected with the Hindu community. And most of my development, it was a combination of new experiences and the continuation of old experiences, that started with some of my predecessors and peers also. It was not an alien environment, I would say, in many ways, because, when you migrate, particularly when you migrate into the second migration, you tend to gravitate. Identity becomes very important. And most of my associations and so on were with familiar people, Hindus like myself, Sanatan Dharma, Orthodox Hindus. So I found a place to identify there. there would be times when I would have to identify outside of that into what we would call mainstream, I suppose, mainstream American culture. And this was for work and a bit of further education and so on. So it was a mix of new experiences and continuation of the older experiences.
Pandit Rabidutt, in terms of your practice, so when you would have left here, you would have been part of the organization. I know that you still are part of the organization, SWAHA, in terms of affiliation. And of course, more than that, your roots and there's of course family connection as it relates to the organization, and those things run very deep. But of course, as you mentioned, when you went up there, it was an entire different network, and obviously the context and the situation would have been different. So just could you give us an idea of your practice, you know, how you have built your own practice? And we know that you are the head of Dharma Inc. How that has been built and how that is contributing to the development of Hinduism in Orlando at this point in time.
Okay. I was very fortunate in my later years in Trinidad, where the senior pundits of SWAHA, you know, provided me with a lot of opportunities for leadership and so on. And it built a tremendously solid acumen for me. When I migrated to Florida, naturally, you know, I wanted to continue that. It was a desire of mine. It is a desire of mine to establish an organization and to be able to achieve some of the same goals that SWAHA is currently achieving, and if possible, a little bit more. So when I came here, I saw it as a great opportunity to do so. One of the things that struck me, and this is not, probably won't be seen necessarily as a positive point, but one of the things that struck me when I came here is that even though the connections are there between the first diaspora and second one, but I'll say Trinidad for simplicity's sake and Florida, is that the connections were sentimental, you know, they were not de facto connections, so that there would be a strong connection when pundits would visit or individuals would visit and so on. And then when they would leave, the community pretty much went back to its you know, its basic way of operating. And I, on my part, I used that. I used that whole idea to begin to build a strong base in Florida, a strong base in Central Florida, I should say, that is not totally dependent on connections in this way, that is self-sufficient, that is not just proficient, but, you know, mastery, right, can be attained. And an organization was a way to do that. Dharma Inc. was formed in 2005, and it provided me, together with my board and all of our supporters and so on, to be able to build that base. And it has been a challenge, you know, at many points, but by and large, I think we've been able to consolidate this community. We've been able to consolidate ourselves also as a Florida organization in the pursuit of, as Pandit Gandhiji had mentioned, we have a motto, we call it the Dream Divine. In pursuit of that divine dream here independently and in a collaborative spirit with other organizations, and now thankfully other countries.
Harishar, Madhu Maharaj.
Yes, Sitaram. So, Pandit Rabidutt, I mean, we are very happy to have you with us, right? And many of our viewers, I know they will be happy to see Pandit Rabidutt. Certainly the SWAHA members and SWAHA viewers who have been, you know, around for years, 20, 30 years within the fold of SWAHA would recognize with fond memories, of course, of Pandit Rabidutt ji. Panditji, I want you to speak a little bit about your family. We know you have a wonderful family, beautiful family, sons, a daughter, of course, a dedicated wife also. And especially in terms of, we know you're a professional, your wife is a professional, so you will elaborate a little bit, but your sons also following in your footsteps, and those of your, you know, your father and grandparents also in terms of Panditai, and maybe some of the challenges that they face going to school in an environment very different to what you would have grown up in?
Okay. Thank you very much, Isha, for that question. Yeah, my Dharmapatni is Dr. Priya Maharaj, and together we have a family practice clinic here in Orlando that has been in operation for 15 years. Together with our, spiritual and humanities oriented goals. This is our professional goal. We've been very lucky, I would say, and blessed in many ways, with 3 sons and 1 daughter. My oldest son, his name is Tulsidas. The second one is Vasudev. Jagdishwar is the third, and Shailasuta is our youngest daughter, and the oldest is 17. The youngest turned 11 last month. You made an interesting comment about how they would identify themselves here, and here we've come to a huge change in mindset, a huge change in culture. It is our responsibility, Priya and I, as parents, to emphasize to our children that they are Americans. They are citizens of the United States, and they are American citizens even more than we are, because both of us were naturalized. But they've been born in this country. I will say though, and I'm certainly not unique in this way, many of the families and by extension communities in the United States, even though we make that claim to be American, we're very proud to be Americans, and we're very proud of our country and what our country has achieved. We've been able to maintain our identity, our cultural identity and our religious identity. And I must put my hand up and say at this point that this is due, regardless of all of the negative press and so on we get, constantly, is due to the fact that the American Constitution is a very fair and a very powerful tool. And Trinidad, many times in academic circles and so on, is considered a plural society. They use that term. But the United States of America is one of the oldest plural societies in the world today. And we have, by being here, we've been able to take advantage of the benefits of being in the United States. But being in a plural society, we've also been able to capitalize on the privilege of practicing our traditions, practicing our religion, and so on. And I will add, if it's not too presumptuous of me to do so, that our sons are good examples, because at a young age they were able to get their janeo, and they've practiced Panditai. In our family, if you take Pandit Sundat coming down, they're the first generation of American Pandits. But if you hear them chant, if you see them in the performance of their Panditai, you wouldn't see that first. You'd see training Pandits first. You'd see young individuals trying to make an impact in the field of spirituality. This is what you would see first.
One question to follow up on that, Pandit Rabidutt, in terms of if in Trinidad you notice that although we say that there's a plural society, and again this is something we have discussed a few times in our program. Yes, there's a diversity, and you seek inclusiveness, but you don't always see that equality. And of course, there's always been this mindset, even for Indians, Indo-Trinidadians, where they shy away sometimes from their own culture, so that even in today's society, you find that as much as our ancestors have fought for some level of equality and recognition, that you still see Hindus being given, they name their children with Western names and all of that. Of course, I mean, your children have wonderful, noble names, but they would have been exposed to school and a society that may not necessarily respect these things. So have you had any challenges, or your children have had those challenges? And if they did, how did you deal with that? And how did you make them proud to carry these names and to practice these practices, maybe a society that is completely foreign to, or may not recognize or respect what they do?
Mm-hmm. That's a loaded question, and it's also a very powerful question. At the outset, I'll say that for us, there have been no challenges. And the reasons for that, it could be, it could be the value system at home. It could be the fact that we're part of a community and an organization, and our children, so to speak, are not the only ones who identify in this way. So they have friends, they have cousins, they have members of an organization who commonly identify with them. But it's interesting that you say about identity. Like I said, we've never had that challenge. My third son, his name is Jagdishwar. He has the longest name, right? When he went to kindergarten, we had, orientation. His teacher asked him, he said, what's your name? He said, Jagdishwar. And the teacher did say to him, she said, well, that's a long name. What can we call you? And he did say right there, in fact, he said, well, you can call me Jagdishwar. All right. And at that point, the teachers actually called him Jagdishwar at all times. And there would be a tendency, even at home, for us to call him Jug, to shorten his name. And he stayed with that. And all of the boys now, Tulsidas is about to enter into university. The youngest one, Jagdishwar, is in middle school. Till today, they all sport their churki. I can speak for myself. When I was in secondary school, and when we got our Janeo and so on, Pandit Umarat and I got Janeo together, you would say, I think we're on for
Continue, yeah.
People would ask us, the first question people would ask us is, hey, who died in your family? Because they associate the Turkey with death and so on. But our children are actually known with that, because as they go through schools, they're able to identify the Maharaj family because of the Turkey. So the teachers don't know who they are because of the Turkey. They say, oh, you're Tulsidas's brother, you're Vasudev's brother. So that actually becomes a positive reinforcement more than anything else.
All right, so thank you, Pandit Rabidutt, and we'll take a break, and after we'll come back with Pandit Gandhi. So I think Pandit Gandhi, you're going to ask something, right?
No, I know even folks are going to ask you something.
Yeah, well, we come back with you now, right? Yeah.
Right, so come back with Pandit Gandhi.
Yes.
Join us every Tuesday evening at 4:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. and countdown at 7 p.m.
So, Mai, coming to you, Pandit Gandhi. And Jan.
Welcome back to our program. We have with us Rabidutt Maharaj from Orlando, who established himself as a Pandit, a successful Pandit, I must add, and also as someone who is respecting community and continues to keep that contact with the organization SWAHA. This is why he's on this program here today. I would just like to ask him, because he mentioned some certain things which I think was very appropriate. In terms of cultural traditions, you mentioned Turkey. Do you all still adhere to the fact that your parents are your God and you encourage your children to bow to you, worship you, and not fall the victim of other people who say that is exploitation? Have your children been initiated in a dharmic way? So these are just two questions I'd like to ask, please.
Yeah, absolutely, Pandit Gandhi. Yes, being here in the United States, the laws are quite different, and you could actually end up in a legal bind if you cross certain boundaries with your children, especially when it comes to corporal punishment and hitting and so on. I would say though that, like I said, the Constitution is a powerful tool, and it does guide and guard everything that happens in this country. But not only for Hindus, not only for Indians, communities hold on very strongly to their traditions. And we find it with the Greeks and the Jews as well as the Hindus. A lot of those remain. And I would say we have a certain amount of leeway. I mean, home they call it beat, right? But I've walked my kids, and they didn't threaten to call the cops and so on. And I think that leads into the second question that Pandit Gandhi put forward, is that, the foundation at the home has to be strong, and the value system has to be intact. And just like we were taught, when we were young, and I was young back in Trinidad, even till today, we hold, we call him Papa, the Shankaracharya in the highest esteem, right? And when you have guidance like that, when you have an individual like that at the top, you have no problems, believing the adage that your parents are God. And if we hold to those principles strong, then regardless of where we are, I think those principles will still abide. Um, and certainly as Hindus, I speak for all Hindus here, all strong Hindus, I should say, those principles still remain. Respect for parents and so on. We don't compromise on that.
And the second one about initiation, given children, in English, it's a godfather. We do like that too. We say Guru Diksha.
Yes. This one becomes a little bit, I think we're getting a little bit into some areas for discussion here and possibly agreement and disagreement, which is healthy in and of itself. But at the first pass, our two older boys, in order to initiate them, give them Janeo and enter into Brahmacharya, they had their choice. And their choice was someone who remained, firmly in the family traditions and so on, and resided in Trinidad. And we invited that guru to leave Trinidad and come to Florida and perform the initiation, Janeo, and so on. That guru is back in Trinidad now, and access is very limited. Even physical contact and the ability to train directly and so on is not even restricted. It's non-existent. As a family, Priya and I, we discussed that when it came to the two younger ones, and we found ourselves making a different decision in that, let's just say, for instance, if we talk about tradition, our youngest child is a girl. She is our daughter. Someday we will marry her. We will give her, away in Kanyadan and so on. And in order to achieve that, we would need to have a guru. They would need to have a guru to also service them in life later on. We made a decision to encourage them to choose a guru that resides in Florida so that they have that full experience of having a guru. So yes and no, Panditji. We did adhere to that tradition, but we've adapted, so to speak, to a certain extent in that for accessibility, we've chosen gurus here in our city that they have direct access to.
Rajishwar?
Yes, thank you. So, Rabidutt, I mean, we are, elated to hear that your children, your family, you're doing quite well, following traditions and building your own traditions and legacy also there in Orlando. But we are speaking also about our Indian ancestors who would have come and brought certain, values, traditions again, cultural practices, and religion, of course, uppermost in our minds. This is a Hindu perspective. And here in Trinidad, after 177 years, we are seeing certain changes, a lot of changes, modifications to the way certain rituals are done, the way weddings are done. Very rarely you see the elaborate 3-day ceremonies. Yes, this is the ideal. Many people still do it, but quite often you see, simplified formats, Jaimal wedding and so on being done because of lifestyle changes, because of various situations. You see adaptations, even within families that are fiercely, traditional. At least they think so, but they still make certain changes, and even adaptations to after death ceremonies, and even your puja. Gone are the days where, I remember growing up, you would have puja Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So Devi Ma on Friday, Saturday Hanuman Baba, Rot and Katha, you have your Saturday, Sunday puja. And people never deviated from that. Now, one day you do all your puja, right? So I want you to speak a little bit about some of the adaptations perhaps you have made and maybe the pundits that you interact with in Florida, and link it to what has started in Trinidad, and I know in Guyana, Suriname also, to maybe to a lesser extent they are modifying and changing, but is all meant to, of course, take Sanatan Dharma forward, but perhaps in a way that is more palatable and more accommodating to everyone. So if you could, just speak a little bit on that, we'll be grateful.
Of course. Thank you very much, Panditji. I'll speak about modification first. I think we both on that side and on this side experience the same, similar things with regards to the wedding and so on. I speak as a pundit when I say that a lot of times the wedding serves mostly a forum for people to take nice pictures. it has been tremendously altered. I would say if we speak only about traditions, probably for the negative. All right. We've experienced that a lot here. A lot of times we have challenges where rather than a mandir, people may want to do a wedding in a hall. Sometimes there are beautiful churches. People want to do weddings in a church. And again, my view is that it all comes down to, I would say, the aesthetics of it. It becomes very important. So yeah, I would agree with you that some things need to be addressed there. The second aspect of what you have asked me, what has been raised with in terms of integration, is very interesting because my experiences changed tremendously when I moved here. When I was in Trinidad, Trinidad is a small place, population-wise and so on. We learned many things. We were very fortunate to learn many things. But when I migrated to Florida, I was able to associate with, learn from, and also pass my traditions on to pundits from Guyana, from, believe it or not, Jamaica and India. So this mix of traditions, eventually it leads to a synthesis, a new synthesis in the way that we perform pujas and so on. And I think if we had a situation where Pandit Jairat, you Pandit Ishwar and myself were to do 3 days puja like we never do anymore, but if somebody catch a mad head and decided to do 3 days puja and call us, we would see 3 completely different pujas, you know. I feel here we've had the benefit of a globalization and being able to learn and adapt and adopt, I should say, new traditions. And that has really served me tremendously well. I feel like my knowledge in Panditai and Puja is tremendously better for it.
One follow-up question that Pandit Rabidutt. I mean, just like our ancestors have come here and they were adopted to survive, right? So I know a big part of adoption and adaptation is really for the purpose of survival. You would have assimilated some of the other practices from other pundits and or I don't know about organization, but certainly other pundits. Is it a case that you have done that for the purpose of survival? Or is it because you felt that this makes it a richer, gives a richer experiences to devotees? Because in my mind, it is two different things. You adopt to survive, or you adopt for the purpose of becoming better, more efficient, serving in a better way. So given that how our ancestors came and what they faced and what they had to do out of necessity, is it different? What you are saying you did, or is it the same idea of you have done that in order to be accepted and to have that opportunity to do what you would like to do in terms of serving Dharma?
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of the adaptation to either survive or to expand, it's actually, I see it as reverse adaptation. What you find happening here is that we would be exposed as pundits, we would be exposed to communities in Guyana and Jamaica, different parts of India and so on. People gravitate. I feel we have less of a say in this, in that I have the freedom to choose a pundit that I feel is comfortable, I feel comfortable with. And people tend to do that. Some people want the Guyanese pundit, or they want a Trinidadian pundit or an Indian pundit. I feel like the Yajman makes that choice. I'll go to my experiences now. I'll tell you, when I was younger, I did a lot more pujas for Guyanese people, than I do today. But for some reason or the other, it's changed now. Maybe my following of my Yajman and so on, it changed, it evolved, who knows? I don't analyze that too much. But what I can say is that when I adapted, it wasn't for survival. I saw opportunities for improvement, opportunities to be able to do different types of pujas, to be able to do different sanskar in a more detailed way, to incorporate traditions that we weren't exposed to simply because of geography, in our old experiences. And I feel I am a much better pundit for it. I feel I'm a more knowledgeable pundit for it. And I actually implement some of these. If time permits, I'll give you a simple example. We go back to our children. You know, we're a young family, we're evolving. In Trinidad, we would allow a child to hairs to grow, a child's hair to grow for 1 year and then cut it. Here, the social dynamics of that is a little bit different. People wonder if it's a boy, it's a girl. This whole identity thing, and I grappled with that for a little bit until one day I was fortunate to hear from a Gujarati lady, and she asked me. She said, "This is a Gujarati tradition. You all are from North India." And I remembered when I was in India, my landlord, right, when his child was born, immediately in North India, they shave the child's head and they allow the hair to grow back. And now Guyanese people follow that tradition. And then I came to realize that that Guyanese tradition is more in alignment with North India. Our tradition is more in alignment with Gujarat, and we're North Indians. And I've seen evidence, there's empirical evidence for it in my life. So I have adopted the shaving of the hair. According to the Guyanese traditions now, the Guyanese pundits, you shave the hair of the child in an odd month. So 1 month, 3 months, 5 months. But if you can't do that, you do it in weeks. So I have adapted, right? And I've adopted that. And I feel that's more in keeping with some of the older traditions that we've had. All of these adaptations are completely voluntary. And like I said, at the end of the day, I feel it helps me to be not only more knowledgeable, but to probably make adaptations that are probably more appropriate also in some cases.
So Pandit, let me ask you one question in terms of an adaptation that even Swaha has made under the guidance of the spiritual head, the Paramachara Swaha, and this relates to the death ceremony. So you could probably tell us how it is done there. And this again comes out of circumstances where sometimes families visit from, because again, the Indo-Caribbean diaspora is large. So you have families who would have moved out for careers, for study, and all of those things. And obviously, you know, when someone dies, it would come. But in a lot of circumstances and a lot of times, they are not able to remain for the entire ceremony. So what we have said as an organization, our position is that in extenuating circumstances and moving from extenuating circumstances, it has now become a choice of some, that within 5 days, the Antiyeshika then is done, the Dasgad is done. In some cases, that is not done at all. And of course, the Madhyam Shodashi is completed. And many of the Hindus, right now, they are choosing to go on that path. Others are saying that what is tradition, 13 days for non-Brahman, 12 days for Brahman, they will remain with that. So this is what is being done now. This is a position that is put forward by Swaha under the the guidance of the Paramachar. So I don't know if you can give us some insight from your experience there. If you see there's merit to this, and especially when it comes to death ceremony, something that persons are very particular about. There's a lot of fear, especially when it comes to death, right? People do certain practices and certain things they'll try to avoid. So I know that we have to take a break now, Pandit. So when we come back, you can probably give us a little insight on how this is done and what is your view on that, and probably how you would have done these things in the past and how you do it currently. So at this point, we'll take a break and then we'll return. Yeah, so I know, there's something you can tell us, right?
Have to go that way?
You don't criticize what we do, right? Just
do in detail and don't criticize or condemn.
Don't criticize what you are, but
don't condemn the Paramachar.
Yeah.
Just say what obtains in your own way, put it across.
Yeah, because people are interested in that, especially that. Yeah.
Okay, stand by. We come back to now. Pandit Jairath?
No, Pandit Rabidutt.
Pandit Rabidutt, okay. Okay, coming back to you, Pandit Rabidutt, and Jan.
Thank you, Pandit Jairath, for that question. That is a very complicated question that can go in many ways, and I will try to answer it as honestly and transparently as I can. I will begin by saying I will not venture to speak on the virtue of making such adaptations. I will say though that most of the times the adaptations that we make will be based in what our books, scriptures, or in our vidhi in this case, what they say. and there are certain standard reference scriptures, right? Not necessarily the Puranas, but like Pret Manjari and so on, that would outline that very clearly. Here, death and the performance of the Shrad is done in quite a bit of detail. I will state very categorically that regardless of what has been shared, I don't know, I can't say, but if the impression has been created that it's more of a challenge to achieve performing a full Shrad here, I would say that is not correct. There is nothing that you can get elsewhere that you wouldn't be able to get here in the United States, including the Koa and the Kongolala and all of these obscure kind of plants, right? They're all available. I know there is certainly the issue of preparation and how complicated it is to do this Shrad. At the end of the day, not only the soul, but the family is seeking and searching for answers. And I speak for myself here when I say this. And I feel the Shrad provides a good forum for these people to begin to find answers, not by relinquishing, what has been laid out, but by embracing it and being able to do it. Extenuating circumstances always exist. And of course, we adapt in these extenuating circumstances. I speak only for myself again when I say it becomes quite scary for me if the extenuating circumstances become the norm. That would, in my view, be a problem. I, for my part, encourage families to perform the full Shrad. One of the biggest challenges here is a Mahapatra, okay, or Mahapatra as we say. We have many of the pundits here have circumvented the Mahapatra, right, by spreading the way that we offer the Pinda, the distribution of the Pinda differently to be able to still achieve the offering of the 54 Pinda by the end of the Uttam. So we've been able to adapt to that without needing the express services of a Mahapatra. But the Shrad does continue on here in quite a full way.
Let me make my intervention here.
Of course.
If I may. I just like the quote from the Gita. श्री कृष्ण ने अर्जुन से कहा कि इस संसार में एक नियम होता है, वह नियम परिवर्तन, सब कुछ परिवर्तित हो जाते हैं. In other words, everything in this world changes. They make a reference to the human being, first a single cell, a human being, then the dust, the ashes, whatever. So everything changes. And based on that, as Rabidutt rightly said, what we do is based upon the scriptures. We don't do things man mana dhang. That means willy-nilly. Do things based on the scriptures. And I'll just read 2 verses on Gita, which says, this is chapter 1, verse 44. हे जनार्दन, जिनका कुल धर्म नष्ट हो गया है, ऐसे मनुष्य का अनिश्चित काल के नरक में वास होता है. ऐसा हम सुनते हैं, आते हैं. Arjuna is saying to Krishna Bhagavan that those who do not follow their family tradition, they dwell in an very indefinite period of time. So this is Gita chapter 1, verse 44. And then he goes on to say in chapter 4 that each one of us, he's saying, I'll read English only for the purpose of time. Having known this action was performed by even the ancient seekers for liberation. Therefore, you do also perform actions that have been performed by the ancient from antiquity. So Krishna Bhagavan is saying here, no certain term, what our ancestors did. Our ancestors came from India and they brought traditions and they adapted because of parivartan. So very basis of it remains the same. So it is from Trinidad to America, maybe to Guyana, wherever it went from India, it will change, But we have to recognize that what has to be done has to be the substance will be followed. So the ancestors, what has been practiced by them, we shall also practice it in substance, not in actuality. I give an example previously. When we were small, we live in dirt house. Now people build in concrete house, brick house. Later on, they built in glass house, alloy houses. So the point being made is the substance is different, but the purpose is the same. So if you have to change, you must maintain the purpose. The substance can change, the situation can change, but we have to maintain the substance of what is intended according to scriptures here. So this is what the Gita says. I'll pass on Ishwar afterwards, but a very important announcement to make on behalf of Swaha, and Ishwar, and then Jai will close. We like to thank Panajai Rabidutt. Last few words. I just want to mention, because we are an international organization, SWA International. We are in America. We were in certain countries because situations have changed. I want to mention, because this program is listened to by many people, including people in government. You have spoken great about America, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. We have to speak great about Trinidad too. hope you understand what I'm saying. I'll tell you what it says here. I read from this while you were in India. I was doing this thesis, right? It says, झंडे के तीन रंग लाल, काला और सफेद यह संदेश देते हैं कि ट्रिनिडाडियन में सभी जाति और सभी धर्म के लोग एक समान माने जाते हैं. And Trinidad, red, white, and black signifies that all of us are one. We do not pass judgment anybody else. So this Trinidad का राष्ट्र झंडा तिरंगा है. So we all here with each other. We appreciate America, we appreciate India, we appreciate Japan, we appreciate all countries, but we take from what brings to us from our tradition. And that frame of mind, I'll pass on to Panajishwar, Secretary of Dharmandal, to let us know, to make an important pronouncement on behalf of SWA. I pass on Panaj Ishwar, and then Panaj will pass on to Jaida to get anything else to say. Panajishwarji.
Thank you, Pandit Gyandev. So indeed, we have been listening to, wonderful comments here from Pandit Rabidutt Maharaj, and we feel privileged to have you, Panditji, with us today. And Pandit Gyandev mentioned it. We do have other Pandits, affiliate Pandits in Florida, in Canada, in New York, the US again, and of course in India also. So when we say SWA Incorporated, SWA International, is no joke or no boast, and you're seeing it here. Now, recently the Hindu community in Trinidad and Tobago has been rocked and shocked rather by the death of a young individual who is of course Mr. Lokesh Maharajji, who would have been the son of Mr. Vijay Maharaj, the Secretary General of the Sanatan Dharma Mahasabha. And the SDMS, of course, well known by our viewers and everyone here in Trinidad and across the world as a major Hindu organization here in Trinidad and Tobago. And on behalf of SWA, I must say that our spiritual leader, the Paramachar Panihardeo Prasad, did extend condolences, but I want to do so also formally here using this medium here on IETV. So on behalf of the board and the membership, all the Pandits of SWA, we humbly extend our heartfelt condolences to the entire Maharaj family, to Mr. Vijay Maharaj and his Dharmapatni, the parents then of Lokesh ji, and to Lokesh's wife, Preeta, the son, and by extension, the entire Mahasabha executive and membership also. On behalf of SWA, I want to let you know that our thoughts and prayers are with you. And we pray that Bhagwan Krishna grants you the strength and courage to face the difficult days ahead. And we pray that his Atma reaches the abode of Bhagwan. We say Ram Nam Satya Hai, Panchatattva Shanti. The death of any young individual like this, and certainly one who is a supporter of Sanatan Dharma, is a loss for the entire Hindu community. And I want to say that, you are brothers and sisters in Sanatan Dharma, and we show our support and, of course, on condolences are there with this family. So devotees, viewers, we have been sharing wonderful sentiments on Indian arrival and talking about Hinduism in general. I hand over to Pandit Jaidat, who I know has a few parting comments to make for our program today.
So thank you, Pandit Ishwar, and we have about 8 minutes remaining, and I'm sure that Pandit Rabidutt would share the same sentiments on the loss of Lokesh ji, and I know that Pandit Rabidutt, Pandit Umarat, some of the senior pundits would have got their pundit license under the Sanatana Dharma Mahasabha. And Lokesh and Vijay and even Satmaraj and all these individuals, they have done a lot for Hinduism. And we have spoken about the role of advocacy and fighting challenges to get us where we will. And not only the religious organizations, but other religious leaders. We spoke about Basil Pandey and others who have done a lot to ensure that we have rights as a group of persons. So that Panditji, I know that the time that we have is limited, but Pandit Rabidutt, just to give us an idea of the role and the impact of your organization, the Dharma Incorporated, if you could just share some of even one of the greatest challenges you may have faced in Florida, in terms of fighting for some cause, being an advocate, and how you'd have overcome that and face those challenges.
Okay, thank you very much, Pandit Jared. I do want to echo also on our behalf in Florida our deepest condolences to the family. Certainly the loss of one of our pundits in our community is a tremendous loss. In my closing remarks, I'd like to just highlight a few things that I feel are important, and I'll put my historian hat on first for a few seconds and draw awareness that, the first diaspora, the original diaspora, and the second diaspora, there are some similarities and differences. One of the greatest difference that exists between them is that the first diaspora was driven by indentureship. It was not driven by choice. It was driven by immigration that forced, terrible socio-economic and political circumstances forced people out of a country into another country. And there they were charged, so to speak, with reforging an identity. And we're very proud of what we have in that diaspora. In many ways, it is a stronger reflection of brighter light than where we came from where we left. The second diaspora was not by coercion. It's important to acknowledge that. And the second diaspora is completely voluntary. There are certain factors, economic hardship, crime and punishment, and even political prosecution and so on, that come into play. But essentially, it is a voluntary movement. And this voluntary movement is not so much charged, but this voluntary movement has a choice to maintain its identity, just like it had a choice to move. And the second diaspora, I would say, being here firsthand, is doing a tremendous job in achieving that. Here in the United States, there are different challenges. One of the biggest obstacles that we must surmount is the separation of what the law calls a church and state. Of course, that's a narrow interpretation because we're not a church. But separation of religion and state, we can say, to translate it loosely. It is a challenge in that what we can get from the federal government, to be able to do our work is severely hampered. Then we, as a result of that, rely on patronage, philanthropic donations and so on from others. And the second diaspora has been able to deal with this in a very good way. It leads to the building blocks of what we need to survive here, and that is the basis for organizations. In today's world, not everything can be done in cash transactions and so on. And by being in these situations, organizations are forced to be able to function as organizations fiscally, financially, in terms of accountability and spending, budgeting, and things like that. And these are hard roads to take, but ultimately I feel it's going to bring the Hindu community into a more contemporary state of operation. I don't know how it's happening in Trinidad. It's been a long time, 22 years, more than 22 years that I've been gone. One of the things here is that once the movement goes from the first diaspora to the second, there are small groups, we call them loose association or informal groups that function sometimes in obscure places and so on. And this opens a whole different situation in terms of accountability and all of that. Today, we have very few organizations who have ventured into the mold of that actual, formal organization. There is one organization called FHO, sorry, or Florida Hindu Organization in Fort Lauderdale, which manages to run a mandir in conjunction with quite a few activities culturally and summer camps and so on. Dharma Inc. Is striving for the same thing. We've been around since 2005, and we're aiming for pretty much the same thing, to function as an organization, for the mandir to be an arm, right, of our community, and just one in many, many cogs in the wheel of our dharma. In conclusion, I like to say that just like how our diaspora originally looked to India, we look to our diaspora, we look to Trinidad and Tobago, we look to you all, to your style, to your leadership, to your achievements and so on. And this is where we draw inspiration. And we feel very lucky, to have mentors like you to look up to. And I'll say in conclusion that the diaspora is really an amalgamation of pundits, organization, and ideas. And we have to be able to, we can't exist without each other. We depend on each other. We live with each other. We coexist. And this is what creates the diaspora. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to, be able to share some of my views. I consider it a great privilege. And thank you very much on behalf of myself and Dharma Inc. also.
Okay, so thank you very much, Pandit Rabidutt. And the same experiences are here. We are guided by the FATFA, and we have the NPO Act of 2019, so that we have the FIUTT, and all NPOs are also required to register. And I guess that once you're dealing with the US in any way, that's a requirement. So anti-money laundering, of course, that's a big issue as it comes to religious organizations. So I think that those experiences are very similar. So Pandit Rabidutt, we just want to say on behalf of SWAHA, and in particular the Hindu perspective, thank you very much for joining and giving us your perspective, your experiences. And in fact, just to say that, a lot of the discussions we have liked to hear, especially between you and Pandit Gyandev, your experiences in India and all of that, we have not even reached that point. So that if you would agree, maybe when the new season starts, so 1 or 2 months from now, hopefully you'll come on again and we'll be able to hear some of those experiences. So that we want to thank our viewers for viewing the Hindu perspective for the last 13 weeks. And we want to say special thanks to our senior Pandit, Pandit Gyandev, and the secretary of the board, Pandit Ishwar, for facilitating these discussions. It has been very informative and well received by members of the public. And of course, we are signing off now, but we will let you know when our new programs and our new episodes are going to begin. So Sitaram to our viewers, and be safe.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Rabidutt.
Yeah, no problem. I
Good, yeah.
enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed it. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
I think they put you on the spot there, but I myself thought a little bit more interaction with Pandit Gyandev talking about India, but that's all right.
No, let make it too personal.
Yeah. No.
Very, what he talk about his organization there was more beneficial to the community.
Yeah.
Thank you, Panaji. Next time we'll talk about how we want.
Thank you.
Chole Bhature and thing. Next time.
Talk about Chole Bhature and now the bus leave you and thing.
I know that next time. Yeah, I run behind the person.
Right, Pandit Sitaram, I leave in, right? Pandit Ishwar, I make you the host, right?
Okay, yeah, no problem. Take care. Thanks.
Bye.